Hello, sorry for the delay. We are from Dial Square to Where. Thank you for joining us. We've got a great episode lined up. Very, very pleased and proud to have a true Arsenal legend on the show tonight, Nigel Winterburn. How are you, Nigel?
Very well, thank you. After a few little issues of trying to log on, it tells you what my skills are like there.
No, just glad to have you on board. It's fantastic. Very, very, very happy that you've joined us. 584 appearances I've got here. You actually, one thing is very, very impressive. 32nd in the list of the top 50 greatest Arsenal players of all time. And the best thing about that is it's voted for by the fans. So a very good accolade there.
Yeah. The way things are going, I think I might stay in there for a bit longer.
I think you'll start going up, yeah. You got 3 league titles, 2 FA Cups, 1 League Cup, a European Cup Winners' Cup. I mean, what a career. What a career. You must be pretty happy with that, Nigel.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a dream to join Arsenal, a top club at that time from where I come from Wimbledon as well. But you just listed the honours that I was privileged to be part of teams in to win. And when you list that, it makes me feel very, very proud that I represented this great club. And what I say is one of the club's most successful periods as well, with some fantastic players. So you just brought a smile back to my face.
Oh, good. I'm very pleased. Well, I'm going to try and keep a happy atmosphere on this podcast. It's been very depressing being an Arsenal fan lately. And you will all notice who are listening or watching that we've got more guests. Alex from Cannon Fodder TV, how are you?
I'm pretty good this evening. Thank you for the invite. I'm starstruck.
I know. Alex,
speechless, Nigel.
Alex, you have to go soon because you're teaching, doing a very worthwhile job. So we'll crack on. Jason, I think everyone knows the Welsh rabbit from A Bird Camp Wonderland. How are you?
How are you, mate? You all right?
Very good, thank you. And how are you?
Oh, I'm going to be fanboying up in a bit now. You know. It's one of those things, you know, like I said before we started, it's you know, you watch people on the terraces and then you get to chat to them. And especially nowadays with the way social media is and the amount of money in the game, you know, you don't get to talk to players anymore, do you?
No.
You know, and we were lucky enough to have this opportunity. So, yeah, I'm going to be a massive fanboy in a bit now, boys.
I know. And James, football writer James Rowe. How are you, James?
Very well, thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thanks for the invite, Andrew. Much appreciated.
No problem. And all the way from Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What is it like in Amsterdam tonight? Is it as horrible as it is here?
Very cold.
Yeah.
Very cold. Yeah. You need to put your layers on when you're going out of an evening. But yeah, really nice. Nice to be here. And obviously, to give Nigel a bit of a background check, I was born and raised in the UK. I've been a Gooner for more than 30 years. And obviously I emigrated to the Netherlands almost 14 years ago now. So I'm fortunate enough to be in a position to not only interview professional players and managers as a whole, but also every now and again to watch Arsenal play, which is a great privilege.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope those lovely ladies in the shop windows are wrapping up warm at the moment over there anyway. So they'll catch their death, I'm sure. Right, well, we're going to discuss at the end of the show, because it's a bit more depressing. We're going to discuss later on, those that are watching are going to wonder whether we're talking about the Pochettino situation, Jose Mourinho, everything. We're going to do that a bit later on. So hang fire for that. What we're going to be discussing, and just to keep it a bit more light-hearted tonight, obviously, Nigel's fantastic career and some of the highlights and, like what you said, Jason, earlier, I was a season ticket holder at Highbury back in the day, and I just absolutely loved watching Nigel going down the left-hand side. Nigel, I was saying to the other guys earlier, I like to think of, Kieran Tierney now being the new Nigel Winterburn. And it's very early days yet to see whether that's actually going to turn out to be the case. But yeah, I mean, you were such a good left back. You really were. And when you first joined the club from Wimbledon, the first thing you had to do, did you have to cut that mullet?
I certainly did, and that was very, very fashionable at the time. I thank you for that. So
That's all right.
yeah, all natural as well.
It was magnificent.
All natural. Yeah, it was just before I joined. It was actually a lot longer than that. If you have a look at the old Wimbledon pictures, and then I had a little trim up, and then I had a little trim up, and then went even shorter again. So yeah, I think it was the style at the time.
Absolutely. I remember getting your sticker in the Panini sticker album back in the day, and just casting my eye over your mullet and thinking, I wish I could grow my hair like yours, because it was fantastic.
Yeah, now you're making me blush.
No, absolutely. Well, you were genuinely one of my absolute heroes on the watching from the terraces back in the day. And I'm going to obviously open this up, but just quickly before I do, because I'm being selfish because it's my show. Was it true that George Graham literally tied the back four sort of together to actually when he was training you to actually drill the team the way that it's so famous nowadays of being the famous back four? I heard that he tied you all together to keep you in the line. Well, is that true?
Well, pretty much so. I mean, obviously with Arsenal's defensive frailties over the last few seasons, it's been a big topic between supporters when you meet them. They ask what you did under George Graham. I mean, and I go through what I did and look at what my teammates did. We used to go out with George on the pitch, four of us, the back four, sometimes with Dave Stevens, sometimes with without him. And we just literally, no ball on the pitch, George Graham, the four defenders, and we would just walk around in positions on the pitch. So the idea is if George was walking towards one of the players or moved backwards in a certain area, you would have to move towards him. And the idea was that once one player moved, then every other player in that back four moved the same distance and in the same direction. Yeah. So the idea of that is to keep the distances between the back line the same all the time. So when I look back, it looks pretty damn boring, but and I can't see many of today's players walking through that and doing that. But it certainly gave us a fantastic base to work from, and something that George believed in very, very strongly.
Yeah, no, it's such a good. I mean, it's still the best defence I think England's ever seen, and I mean, it was one season. I think it was. I can't remember whether it was the 91 season or I may be wrong, but I think we only let in as a team 18 goals that season, didn't we? I mean,
yeah, that was the league title season when we lost. The only game we lost was to Chelsea. You're right. I think it was 17 or 18 goals, and I don't really go back and look at the stats, but it was such a phenomenal effort.
Incredible.
Not only from the back four, but the team at that time, because although the back four got a lot of credit, the way that we set up from the front defensively through from midfield to defensively gave us such a fabulous base to work from. So it was to be honest, it was a tremendous effort from the team.
Oh, magnificent. Right, let's open out. I mean, Alex, let's go to you first, because obviously you haven't got too long.
Yeah. I want to ask Nigel, you spent 4 years at Wimbledon, and when the call did actually come from George Graham and the Arsenal that they wanted to sign you, I mean, what were you feeling? What were you feeling when you heard that Arsenal were coming to buy you?
Well, I think there's not many people actually know that Chelsea were the first team in for me, and I'd actually gone to meet with Chelsea, but things just didn't work out very, very quickly, and they signed Tony Dorigo. And then just literally a few days later, I got a call from Sam Haman, who was the chairman of Wimbledon, and said that George Graham had approached the club and they'd agreed a fee for me to join Arsenal if we could negotiate a contract. So, but I mean, yeah, I mean, once I went on my own to meet George Graham. Once you walk into those marble halls, boy, it just takes your breath away. And, I just knew once I stepped inside that this was the club for me. And to be quite honest with you, I would have probably signed for £1. It was just so impressive. And to be quite honest, George Graham was quite intimidating. So I didn't want to put up too much of a fight.
No. Wow.
And is it true? Just one question: is it true that when you actually did, I think your first few games when you came to play at Arsenal, did he deploy you at right back, or was it?
Yeah. I mean, he knew how strong my right foot was. So what he decided was that it was about 6 months before I got into the team, just before Christmas. Obviously, I joined in the summer of '87, and then I had about sort of 6 months, relatively up to Christmas, out of the team. And then suddenly we were having a few problems at right back, and he just said to me, "I'm playing you right back. No ifs, no buts. Just get on with it." And that's what I really did. I mean, I played there for the rest of the season, and then occasionally switched over to left back when he left Kenny out of the team. So sort of 80% of the time in that second half of the season was right back, and then occasionally at left back. So, but. Yeah, it was pretty difficult for me at the time because obviously I'd spent all my time at Wimbledon and then as a kid at Birmingham for 2 years as an out and out left back. So switching sides was let's just say it was a little uncomfortable.
Well, at least you didn't moan like Ainsley Maitland-Niles does nowadays by playing out of position.
No, well, I think for me, I just see how I swerved that quite well. But for me, it was more a case of I was so desperate to get into the team because after I joined, I found it so difficult. Although I joined a big club, I missed the competitiveness of the football in terms of when the crowd was there. Wimbledon was 6,000, but I just loved walking out in front of them and playing. And when I wasn't in the team at Arsenal, in the reserves, there's 100, maybe 150 people there. It wasn't the same feeling, and I really struggled to start with. So, I was absolutely delighted when George said to me, right back, I'm putting you in at right back, because then I just then knew I got that feeling that I'm going to walk out at Highbury and some of the away games, and you're looking at 50,000 plus supporters if you're having a good season. So that sort of gave me the mojo back, if you like, to get going again and get started, and made me believe that I actually had made the right decision, because for a little while, as I said to you, I did find it very, very difficult.
Especially coming from the crazy gang as well. I mean, the atmosphere you must have had in that changing room must have been very different. At least I used to watch you in the reserves, because they used to let you in for free at Highbury to go to watch the reserves every.
I'm sure
I
spotted you in the crowd.
Yeah, I'm sure you did actually.
It wasn't difficult.
Well, to be fair, I did. You know what? I was trying to grow my hair like yours, but I had a lot more than I do nowadays, because I just shave it off now. But yeah, that was good. I missed that ground. I missed that ground an awful lot. James, what could you? You have the next question.
My next question to Nigel is: given you touched on our defensive frailties in recent years that fans have said to you, Nigel, do you feel that the current defensive frailties are down to communication or lack of communication?
Well, lack of communication is one, but you also have to have a out-and-out desire, particularly if I'm looking at fullback roles, of stopping the opposition crossing the ball. That was George Graham's, real belief for fullbacks. 1-in-1 situations do not. I think the way that I felt when I was a defender was, if I let the winger cross the ball or the right-hand side player cross the ball against me, that's a potential goal. And that's the way I think that's the way I think my back four, I know my back four played, the back four I was in. And I just feel now we've, not only Arsenal, but a lot of teams have gone away from that real resilience defensively. It now feels like you've got to be super cool on the ball. And occasionally when you ask to defend, oh, that's okay. Let's hope that you do it quite well. Whereas, when I played, if I couldn't defend, I would have never got in an Arsenal team. That was for sure. So I think the role has changed, and I think also as well, the game has quickened up. That's for sure. The pitches are better, but I just think it's those fine lines of really understanding your defensive role. And you're right. I don't know how much the Arsenal back four, comeback five are working on certain situations like we did with George Graham. So it's very hard to judge, but it certainly looks at times, if I'm polite, disorganised.
Well, I can't understand why they don't hire, someone like yourself or, Tony or whoever, just to be a
it's a lot
coach.
It's a lot more difficult to coach. I think you understand. I've had a couple of little goes at lower levels, and it's a lot more difficult than what people understand. It's okay, someone talking to you and you fully understanding what they're wanting you to do as a player, and then you putting that into practice with your teammates. When you're trying to get something across to a player and they're not getting it, and you can't understand why they're getting it, makes it very, very difficult. So actually, although I'm a little bit poorer, I'm quite happy sitting here, thank you.
Andrew, unfortunately, I have to take my leave. I've got a lesson.
No problem.
But before I go, I just want to say, I've been a supporter since 1978, and I feel kind of honoured to have spoken to Nigel Winterburn. I've spoken to Pat Jennings actually in 1982. I met him. I met Charlie George, and now Nigel Winterburn. And it's been a real pleasure being on this podcast. Nigel, thank you for taking the time to actually answer my question. Guys, really have a good evening, and hopefully we'll catch up very, very soon. Yeah.
Good evening.
Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.
Take care, Alex.
Take care. Bye.
Jason, what's your question?
Yeah, Nigel. Obviously, when you first arrived at Kenny Sanderson, there you had Tony Adams coming through, Steve Bold would come in. When it became obviously yourself, Lee, you had Tony, you had David O'Leary, you had Steve Bold there as well. Did you feel something special was happening at that point?
Well, I think we quickly got a grasp of what George was trying to achieve in terms of, I think he wanted to play a certain style, I believe, and I've never really asked him, even when I've seen him since I've retired, but I get a belief that he didn't think he could do that with the established players in the team. Your Graham Rickses, your Steve Williams, your Kenny Sampsons. So I think he'd made a conscious decision that he was going to get rid of those. Graham Ricks was there as well. He was going to get rid of those experienced players, and he was going to bring in some young, hungry players, along with some of the players that had come up through the youth team at Arsenal. And I think that was George's real strength. And as I say, our organisation and team spirit at that time, I have to tell you, was absolutely sensational. And there wasn't a team that was fitter than us, really, and as organised. I would say at the time when we first came together, there were plenty of better squads in terms of individual players, but there was no better team in terms of work rate and effort, and also belief in what we were trying to achieve.
Yeah.
You had some fantastic players come through that youth system. Obviously, you had Davis, Thomas, Adams, Keown. I know he went to Villa, I think it was. But
Newcastle.
Rocky. A mate of mine, Anthony Rees, he captained that that FA Cup winning side. Okay, another Armanford boy. The Welsh get everywhere. And he always said about the quality of the players coming through at that time, and the fact that George spotted it and said, right, let's take advantage of it. You know, because you were young guns, weren't you? It was only that Anfield 89 season. You had Richardson, you had Brian Marwood, you were old heads, and David O'Leary. The rest of you were a lot of youngsters, weren't you?
Well, I think you know, when you talk about youngsters, I mean, I joined Arsenal when I was, I have to think back now, 22, 23. So not young. I mean, but I think what George did is he looked, his scouting network was really strong. I mean, myself, really, you could say coming from lower leagues, although with Wimbledon, we got to the top division just before I left. You know, Steve Bold, Lee Dixon came in. And then you're right, he had Rocky, he had Tony, Dave O'Leary was very experienced. He brought Kev Richardson in, Brian Marwood came in. You know, you got Merce there as well, Alan Smith he bought. I just thought he bought a group of players that he thought he could work with and trust. And they would follow his leadership, if you like, without really questioning him, because we were all, it became apparent very quickly, we were all very hungry for success, and I have to say it worked amazingly well.
Brilliant. Can I just have to ask as well, Nigel? It's obviously it was the anniversary this year, wasn't it, for Anfield '89? And can you just give us your? I've heard so many accounts. Amy Lawrence has done some great accounts recently about Anfield '89.
Yeah, she got them from me.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Just give us your thoughts. Obviously, the 2 games prior didn't go to plan, obviously, as we all know. I'd forgotten, actually, that the game had been put back because of some issues, and obviously Hillsborough and everything. So it was after the FA Cup final, and they were going for their double, the Liverpool. And everything was just seemed to be fall apart at the end of the season, almost. Not fall apart, but you know, fall out of our hands. So just give us your account, sort of going into that game before, you know, then maybe the night before, and then going into that game and the way everyone was thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you are right. We should have won the league a couple of games before. I mean, I remember on the Tuesday night sitting down, listening to my radio when Liverpool were playing West Ham, and when it got to 5, turning it off, the realisation that all of a sudden we hadn't got to go there and win and just win. It was 2 goals, and at that time, if they scored again, it would have been 3, and I think then that would have been impossible. So I just switched the radio off. I couldn't listen anymore. It was just as if Liverpool were just swarming all over them. But it came at the end of it that we needed, we needed to go there and win by 2 goals. And George was supremely confident. I mean, we didn't do anything different in terms of preparation. We went up morning of the game.
Well, that is different, isn't it? I think wouldn't you normally have gone up the night before?
No, we would have gone up. Most of the time we went if it was a night game, we'd always go up in the morning.
Right.
We usually got there around lunchtime. We'd have lunch, sleep in the afternoon, and then pre-match before the game. So it was all pretty similar to what we'd done. But I just think, you know, the belief that we had. We knew it was going to be difficult. You can't take away from that fantastic Liverpool team. But George was just really emphasising the fact that it was more important to start with, not to concede a goal rather than score.
Yeah.
And he was sort of delighted at half time when it was 0-0.
And that's incredible.
Yeah. So I think Liverpool thought that we might try and go all out attack against them, which is pretty difficult anyway against a really strong Liverpool team who had an unbelievable record at Anfield. But at half time, George was so calm. He just said, you know, don't worry. If we score, he said, I think they'll panic. And we got, to be honest, we got the goal, my goal that Alan Smith's claiming.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was just about to say that.
He keeps claiming it from me. But Smudge's goal came at the right time. But you know what? Those few moments when they were crowding around the linesman and the referee, and I was standing there thinking, he's going to disallow this now. What a, no one probably
especially at Anfield.
Yeah, it was under so much. The referee was under so much pressure. It was unbelievable. And once he give the goal, then it was, as you say, it was game on. And I mean, then it was just, what could we do? And in a way, Liverpool did panic, because really you think back and you think, just keep the ball, just keep it moving, take no chances. But they came at us and kept coming at us. And Mickey Thomas had the same chance a few minutes earlier. And then just in those final moments when, I could still see it now, Barnsley going down the right-hand side. And I'm thinking, if he goes into the corner flag now, that's it, it's over. And he cuts back across the byline. And I'm thinking, whoa, hold on a minute here. I'm now replaying it. When you're watching it, I'm thinking, and then Kevin.
What did he do that for?
Just flick it on, boot it out. I mean, you would have got the biggest cheer you've ever got. And then obviously from there, I mean, just that finish is incredible.
I can still exactly remember how I was feeling at the end of that game. I thought I was going to be sick. And I remember running into the back garden. I was so excited. And I stubbed my toe on the sofa as well when I got up and ran out and shout and tell my mum and dad that, we'd won. And I stubbed my toe, and I remember thinking I should really scream out in pain here, but I couldn't. I was too excited, and I thought I was going to be sick. It was just the best night. I mean, how long did it take really to properly sink in what you'd actually done? Because it was just such an incredible feat. Because when beaten at Liverpool at Anfield for, I don't know, since the early 70s, I think at that point.
Yeah, I think it was about 13 or 14 years, wasn't it? It was something. Something ridiculous. I mean,
they were far more dominant then than they are now, aren't they? Well, let's put it into perspective.
I mean, it sinks in pretty quickly when you've got that trophy in your hands. Let's be sure. So
no, I mean, just the whole overall feat of what you do. Of course.
Yeah, I still look back now and I just appreciate what a tremendous occasion it was. I mean, we took the flowers out before, when we went out to the pitch. And the one thing that always stands in my mind after that, though, was when they did the presentation with the trophy, and I'll always thank the Liverpool supporters for this, is that ground was full. Absolutely full. And a lot of other supporters would have left straight away in sheer disappointment. But they absolutely clapped us off the pitch. It was, I would never, obviously I'll never forget it, but it was, it brings a little smile to my face every time I think about it. And when, obviously, even at the new stadium now, when you walk into the players' entrance, you got on the right-hand side there that picture of Mickey Thomas scoring that goal right in the final moments. I always look round and just have a little smile to myself and think, yeah, that was some occasion. And I think that was the moment that really brought us the belief into this squad that we could go on and win other trophies along the way.
So to be fair though, when you came out of the tunnel that day and you laid the flowers down at the Kop, that was a bit of a moment there. I mean, I was in the pub back home watching it, and the whole pub went quiet, and all the Liverpool fans in the pub were clapping you. And I think, I was talking to some Liverpool fans when the FA Cup was in Cardiff, and they always mention that, the fact that because you came out, you laid the flowers down at the Kop, etc., they were always going to stay behind to clap you if the impossible happened. And the impossible did happen that night, and it was, it was a phenomenal experience to watch and to think, I remember you stood there thinking, they've just gone to the home of British football for the last 20 years, and they've beaten the champions 2-0, and this is the most amazing night of my life.
I know. It was just set up for Liverpool to win it with obviously it just all laid out for them to be the champions after Hillsborough and everything. It just seemed, I think the whole country thought it just seemed right that they were going to win it, and that's what I mean. It's the biggest night in Arsenal's history, arguably. I'm sure it is. And that's what I mean about sinking in about what went on that night. Not just the fact that you were champions, but what happened, because it's never going to be forgotten for generations. And do you imagine if Sky was around at that point, the way the Aguero moment happened a few years ago? Can you imagine what would have happened, in this day and age with the way media is, if it happened then?
It would have been the greatest finish ever, wouldn't it? It still is, but Sky just don't want us to believe that. So
football didn't exist before then. Yeah, exactly. But it was just phenomenal. It's just incredible. And then, I just want to thank you for winning us that night, because you actually, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have scored 2 goals that night. Genuinely, would we? So, what a thing to be involved in, Nigel. It's amazing. James.
Yeah, well, do you know that's probably the first time that free kick worked in the whole season. We used to practice, because what we used to do, if we got free kicks wide, we used to practice, obviously opposite side, swinging it into the goal, and all we used to practice in training was whipping it in with pace, head height, and literally all you were trying to do was hit the far post, so that it may go in. If it was direct at that time, you could, it would just go in direct, or defender would get a little nick on it, own goal, or as happened on the night that Smudger got a little touch to it. But I can't remember it happening for the whole of that season. So it was worth all the practice, though.
Oh no, James, over to you, because I know you've got to go soon.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Nigel about our European triumph. Obviously, we've touched on the most dramatic night in the club's history. I was a 5-year-old boy, but I still remember it going and coming in the blink of an eye. But one of my fondest memories is the Cup Winners' Cup win. And I still, considering it's the last time we won a European trophy, it remains one of the fondest memories I've got in my 30-plus years of supporting the club. I wanted to ask Nigel, how does he look back on that European campaign and what the team what they all achieved together? Because Nigel's touched on it about the collective working together and the belief and the hunger, and also the Cup Kings of '93. But with '94 being one of my fondest memories, I wanted to ask Nigel how he looks back on that European triumph.
Well, it was if I'm honest with you, again, it was a game we went into such underdogs. We had some injuries as well. We played against a very, very good Parma team. If you look back at some of the players that were playing for them at the time, they were a very, very strong team. But I mean, one of my memories that I remember of that, and I still keep questioning myself, and I've asked some of the players because they don't remember it, is we got there quite early. And when we were walking through towards by the dressing room, there was a dress rehearsal going out on the pitch, and I just looked across at the pitch, and on the where they were doing the ceremony, it said Parma winners. And I was like,
really?
Hold on a minute here. Yeah, I was like, hold on a minute here. We haven't even played the game yet. Well, obviously Arsenal was on the other side, but they'd already done that, or they hadn't done it yet. So, but I think for me that was like, oh, okay, a minute, that's all we need to know. Let's see what really happens. But again, I think it's just taking in sport, you're given very few opportunities to be successful, and you've got to do everything you can to make sure that as a team you come off as a winner. And as I said before, I played at Arsenal for 13 years, and some of the teams I played in, when it had to deliver, 90% of the time or 95% of the time, it delivered, and it won some of the biggest trophies. As I said, it was such an honour to play for the club and so many great players. But it was that was another strong performance from us defensively. Zola was playing, Asprilla, Brolin. I mean, they had some attacking line up there.
Wow.
So it was, and again, he keeps having a habit, doesn't he, Smudger, scoring those goals?
Yeah, that was a great goal, wasn't it? Really,
it was a great goal. It was. I remember diving into the arms of my sister I remember as just obviously being a kid and still being at school and being able to stay up and watch it. I just remember diving into the arms of my sister when that goal went in. And I remember as well the previous rounds. You know, I remember like when you go from the beginning of the competition and getting through and you know, going away and with Standard Liège as well, you know, beating Standard Liège 7-0.
Well, we walloped them, that's for sure.
I know that Kevin Campbell, who was a previous guest on the show, had actually a good run in that competition as well. I think he scored a few goals in the run-up to winning that cup.
Yeah, and Kev, a lot of the time under George, I mean, he played occasionally up front, but he also played from the right-hand side as well, you know. Kev was so strong, so powerful, very, very difficult to knock off the ball as well. So he put in some really strong performances out on that right-hand side. Yeah,
he did. Listen, I know you're pushed for time, and I'm absolutely gutted because I literally could go on for, a couple of hours easy. With so many questions in my head. I don't know if you've got time for one or two more questions, but first thing, Paolo Di Canio, please discuss.
Well, he loves me.
Everyone does, Nigel.
Well, listen, I mean, if you can't laugh at yourself, then I look at that incident. And by the way, the royalties coming in for it are very nice. They're keeping me very happy.
It's like Slade with Merry Christmas, everyone.
Do you know what? I still look back at it and I don't even know why, because I wasn't even involved in the incident. But I thought I'd just let Paolo have a little bit as he was going off and thank him for leaving the pitch early. And he just didn't like it. And at that split second, I'm thinking he's going to wallop me here. It takes a braver man than me just to stand there, let me tell you. So I'm thinking I'm going to duck out the way if he goes, because there's one thing, if I do lose my temper, then I completely lose it. So I didn't want to get into any situation. So I'm thinking I'm just, he's just gonna lamp me here, and I'll just duck out the way. And of course he then stopped, and it probably goes down as a good comedy episode, doesn't it? But it was one of those things that happened, and every time people talk about it, they expect me to get upset and but I went to West Ham with Paolo. We changed next to each other. We got on very, very well. So we formed a very, very strong sort of relationship in terms of the way that he played the game, and his desire to win was pretty similar to mine. So I think we had a real good mutual understanding of what was expected of each other. But we got along fine. We didn't have any fallouts over it. And then obviously you remember when we did the reacting of that in the Legends game. But the only poor thing from that was that the referee didn't want to get involved, because I can't remember who the referee on the day was, but we asked him to reenact it with us, but he wasn't too keen. So we just had to I thought, well, we'll just have to do it ourselves. So let's get on with it. But it's something I always laugh about. I don't take myself too seriously, if I'm honest. So
it's just one of those moments. It's something that everyone remembers. He was a player I really admired. I really liked Paolo Di Canio, I must admit, even though a lot of fans hated him because he roughed people, a lot of the other clubs up the wrong way. But I really respected him for the way that he played the game. And
terrific talent. There's no doubt about that. The only one question I'd love to have asked him, and I didn't ask him while he was there because I was a bit older and I don't think I'd be able to duck out the way this time, was why, with that talent, he should have been able to play for a top team.
Yeah. It's a bit odd. In
the Premier League, and I don't know why he didn't. Whether he felt more comfortable being the big fish, in a smaller team, but he certainly had the ability to play in one of the top teams. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's one of the best goals I've ever seen. Was that scissor kick? We didn't call it a scissor kick. But sorry, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Oh, great. Yeah. One last thing quickly is, Jason, I hope try and get a question in for yourself as well. But one last thing for myself, your two goals that I most distinctly remember, your two most famous goals were the long range ones against Wimbledon and Chelsea. And I think one of them, I can't remember which one it was, but you hit it with your right foot. Was it a Chelsea one?
No, Wimbledon at home was the right-footed goal. To be quite honest, I mean, I don't even know why I hit that shot. If I just took the touch and the ball just went inside slightly, and it just sat up so nice. And those, remember those tango balls that we used to use?
Oh, I love those.
They used they used to move around like anything. So the good thing about that is once I hit it, it just went completely straight like an arrow, and I knew straight away it was in. And I think, to be honest with you, my teammates were more surprised.
I think everyone was.
Well, when you see Merce coming up to me saying, "You've just scored with your right foot," it's like you can't even stand on it. So yeah, I mean, to me that was my best goal. But I know maybe because it's a slightly more modern and later in my career, a lot of people talk about the Chelsea goal as well.
Incredible.
Was there not another goal where it's Scarborough, Nigel, in the mist? Was another one?
Yeah, but I can't tell you anything about it because nobody's ever seen it.
Oh, I remember seeing it on an old highlights video once.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about that, the weird thing about that game was, it was nearly called on. It was foggy. The pitch was so waterlogged. They had the fire brigade on there pumping the water off before the game. I mean, you would have never played that game today. I mean, I mean, the mud came up to your ankles. Trying to run in it was just a disaster. And like you say, it was about 20 yards left-hand side of the box. Yeah, and when I hit it, I only knew I'd scored because the crowd started clapping. It was that foggy, you couldn't see it. No, I mean, it was. But it was another good strike. I mean, the good thing I didn't get many goals, but luckily for me, they were all, or most of them, 90% of them were from distance. So they're nice to remember.
Definitely, Jason.
Nigel, you were there for such a long time, 13 years. You said, the end of George's era came, all the acrimony with them. We know what happened. Then Bruce Rioch coming in, and then Arsene, and then the double. I mean, how did you feel at that time when you were lifting that trophy up against Everton, and you're champion again. You're a champion again, and it just seemed amazing the way the wheel had turned.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said it on many occasions. I think I did one or two, even two maximum training sessions with Arsene Wenger, and I just knew that I had to try and do everything I could to make sure I stayed at the football club and I would be part of the team. His training methods were just so different, and you think it's a game of football. You put a ball out, you train, but the way that he did it, the understanding that he had of the older players, if you like, how we trained, particularly in pre-season with fitness sessions, everything was graded from your age down. So if everyone was running 100 meters, let's say, if the younger ones had to do it in 12.5 seconds, the older ones would have to do it in 13.5 seconds, even 14 seconds. And if we were doing 400 or 800 meter runs, he would add the time on for the older players or the older group. And then a lot of the running was done with running with balls. And then for fullbacks, it was fitness work with crossing and different situations you find yourself in on the pitch. So just his methods of training and the freedom that he gave you to go out and play. I mean, he basically just said, go out and play and enjoy yourselves. I just know you're good enough to organise yourselves. And then what he did is obviously he kept the back four intact, but the players that he brought in front of us were so good that it was such a privilege to play in that period of time. I would say that was one one of the most enjoyable periods solely in terms of football played. It was remarkable. It was, you can imagine playing professional football and being paid to do something you want to do, and the manager just says to you, just go out and play. Don't worry about it. It's just ridiculous to think about.
It's so funny. We were watching the Everton game in the pub back home, and it was Bank Holiday Sunday. And of course, we'd had a few, and Adam scores, and the whole pub in West Wales is shouting "E-O, E-O," everybody's having fun. And mate Anthony said, "This means more than 89. Look at the football we're playing. Look at everybody smiling and everybody's happy." And it was so funny that 89 was such a magnificent moment, so full of emotion. And yet that 97-98 season it just seemed happier. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's the sun was shining that day, but it seemed as though everybody's been through the mill and they've come out the other end and they're just enjoying themselves.
I think it was because we weren't drunk, we could understand what was going on. No. I think, to be fair, I've always said what I call the modern times of Arsenal is, without George Graham and the team and the setup, what he did for the club and the players there, I don't think we would have got the Arsene Wenger tribute that we got in terms of trophies won. I think one was a natural progression to the other. One, George Graham was so organised. He brought in sort of, if you want, lower league players with the players that were already at Arsenal, got rid of all the established players, put in a strong sort of backbone of what an understanding it was to be part of the club. And then Arsene Wenger just came in and kept the back four together, although he was told to, split it up, and then just tinkered around with the midfield and forward line. And it was just open, attacking, free-flowing football, but with the know-how that we had so many good players that our organisation, we could just do it ourselves. And it was as I said to you, football-wise, just if you wanted to go out and play a game of football on a Sunday, I mean, that's what you would pick every day of the week. But I don't think without George Graham's start and the way that he disciplined the players, I'm not sure we would have got the complete Arsene Wenger package, because I think it needed the older players and the back four to be there to make the players, and particularly the foreign players coming in, to understand what Arsenal Football Club was all about. And then once we'd done that and won 98, and then obviously 2000 I left, and then some of the back four started to be disbanded a bit. Then the what Arsenal meant was already there. Vieira, you talked to Henry, Bergkamp. Bergkamp was there anyway, but they then got to realise, Overmars there, what this meant to this the players of this football club. And I think that just drove Arsene Wenger's teams further forward. And, I'd say up to 06 was an unbelievable period to be part of the club, but to watch the style of play as well. And some of the players was incredible, because I'd actually written down my sort of team that I played with and players after me, and I've looked at the 11 and I could probably pick 20. I'm that so undecided, and that tells you how good some of the players were there at that period of time. Well, they all were good, but they were just some incredible players.
Have you got time to just quickly go through your starting 11 of the best players you
well,
played?
I mean, literally, I've only done it since when I joined the club and then through to today, and I haven't thought about this too much. But very, very quickly, I put Seaman, Dixon, Adam, Campbell, Cole. I could have put in Sampson. I could have put in Bold, O'Leary, and Keown. Vieira and Gilberto. I could have put in Petit, Cazorla, or Fabregas. Perez, Bergkamp, Overmars, Henry. I could have put in Rocastle, Lundberg, and I could have put in Wright up front. I mean, that's not too bad a team. I tell you what, if I had that team today and I was manager, I'd be very happy.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%. And you obviously keep yourself still very, very fit. You still do the sort of the matches with play with the legend matches, don't? That's right, isn't it? So you still keep playing.
Yeah,
football?
I mean, I'm getting on. I think I'm the oldest member now, and just over the last year or so, the body is starting to reject me a little. So, but I was up until a couple of years ago. I was still playing with friends. I played in a 6-a-side Vex league, and then just on a Thursday night, we just had a group of mates that used to just rock up and play. And unfortunately, I still had to pay for the privilege of turning up. But I used to play twice a week, 6-a-side and 8 or 9-a-side. But I'm down to once a week now, and the body's just starting to reject me a little bit. But I'm in denial. I won't give in until I have to. So, but I just, if anybody asks me to go and have a game of football, I'll go because I just absolutely love it.
Yeah,
and that's just the way I am.
absolutely. Well, bearing in mind your fitness and everything now, what do you think the largest animal is you could wrap around your shoulders and run 100 meters with?
Probably a cat.
Really? You can do bigger than a cat, unless you're talking about a tiger or a lion.
No, fortunately I'm a little bit weaker than I used to be, and as I said to you before, I can't duck out the way anymore, so I don't want to be annoying anybody anymore. So
what about the older one? What's the largest animal you could single-handedly cling film to a lamppost?
Oh, you've got me there. Go on.
No, that's the question. What's the largest animal you could single-handedly cling film to a lamppost?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, I reckon it'd be a giraffe.
Really? Blimey. That's pretty good going, to be perfectly honest. I reckon mine would probably be like a sloth or something like that.
Well, I might hold you to that.
I have to do it live on YouTube one day. Listen, how are you doing for time, Nigel? Can we ask you one or two quick fire questions that we've got from the chat group?
You can, yeah. You're already paying me a fortune, so you might as well carry on.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts? I think Ryan, you've asked what are your thoughts on the current Arsenal situation that's brewing. I mean, how could we do this briefly? Do you see? You could do some. Do you see Emery going soon?
Do you know what? I'm never a great believer in. I hate the debates of managers in and out. I simply refuse to discuss that because I think we should support the team that's there. But I am very worried where we are at this moment in time. I was worried at the end of last season with our away form, which we should have walked into the top 4.
Yeah,
and we didn't, and we then capitulated in the cup final, and our away form this season is atrocious. I looked the other day, our away form so far, we're 13th in the league, and Southampton and Newcastle have got more points away from home than we have. That's simply not good enough.
No.
And I'm struggling at the moment to understand why we want to sit so deep to defend when our strength is in attack.
Yeah.
It does, people talk to me about Leicester, and I was so frustrated because people said, "Oh, we were compact," but we weren't compact. We weren't in control of the game. We still conceded chances, so we might as well have sat a little bit higher, tried to use our strengths, and if we conceded chances, all well and be. But I think we had one shot on target. That's not Arsenal.
No.
And if I'm honest, I am very worried at the moment, and I just don't think that we can continue for many more games with it like it is. It's got to change very quickly.
Yeah, we're definitely underperforming. I think that's the least that we can say on the current situation. And for all of the worry about Spurs and everything that's going on with them at the moment, they're only 3 points behind us. So, and they're in 14th. So it is looking very worrying.
Yeah, I think before we start looking and mocking other teams, I think we need to make sure ourselves. We need to make sure that we are back where we want to be. And
yeah,
if I'm honest with you, I think we're a long way from where we need to be. So I'm more concentrated on what we need to try and achieve than worrying about what other teams are achieving. But you know, it is what it is.
Before I go, I just wanted to touch on. I think the players have to take responsibility as well. I think you can't just put everything at Emery's door. Nigel mentioned tonight about the collective spirit of the sides he played in, where players and management were all together fighting for the same cause. I look at what Emery done at Sevilla and Valencia, and I look at his charisma when he's in these press conferences and speaking to the Spanish media. Okay, it's his own mother tongue, but it looks like a different guy. And I think he's aware of the challenge in front of him, and you just want him to show a bit more oomph, if you like. And we have a history of sticking by our managers, and I just think we take one game at a time. And as you just touched on, Andrew, about the places in the leagues, things can change very quickly, and I think many football fans forget. It's a long old season. I think people forget, fan-wise, how long a football season actually is, with many a twist and turn. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure tonight. I've really enjoyed it. Nigel, it's been great to speak to you. Really enjoyed your thoughts. And I look forward to speaking to you all again in future.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Cheers, James.
You're more welcome. All the best.
Bye-bye. All the best, mate.
Bye-bye.
Nigel, who's the best player you ever played with?
Well, I've always said Bergkamp, because I was only with Thierry Henry for the year. So that was hard to judge what Thierry was going to achieve. But boy, he was when I left in 2000, I mean, he really did come alive. Unbelievable, unplayable at times. So, I mean, Bergkamp was classy, just the quality that he brought to the team, but also Henry was on a different level than a lot of his teammates, who were very, very good but he was the next step up again when he was in his real pomp. So if I'd have spent a lot longer with Thierry, I might have said Thierry, but Bergkamp just for his the way that he conducted himself. Just an incredible player.
Utter class. Just one quick question that came in from the chat as well. Obviously, we were talking about the transition between Graham to Wenger. Obviously, we had Bruce Rioch in between. How was that year with under him?
Next question.
Oh, that's brilliant. Did he ever work? Did the guy ever work again? I don't know. But
I mean, the one manager. Bruce was the one manager that I really didn't. I don't say didn't get along with, but I found very difficult to understand. His mind games were just far too much for me.
Right.
One day he was your best mate. The next day he walked straight past you and blanked you as if you were a kid he's like, I've never seen you in my life before. You're absolutely useless, basically. And then the next minute you were the best thing since, sliced bread sort of thing. To be honest, I wasn't disappointed when he left. I think if he'd have stayed, it would have been, I knew he was trying to get rid of me. So I would have been gone. But it was a manager that I didn't understand what he wanted, if I'm honest. I couldn't work him out. So I'm pleased that he fell out with Righty, and Righty did my job for me.
Yeah. Well, it's like Stan. We've got a good friend from Vancouver who's a Londoner but living in Vancouver at the moment. Stan, the man. Thank you for watching, Stan. He's put in there that he wanted to play Righty on the wing, and it was just it seems very similar, the Emery situation now to him.
He wanted to get rid of Righty, that's for sure. And he wanted to bring in, he wanted to get rid of Righty and bring someone in who he thought was better. And I don't want to be disrespectful, so I'm not going to mention that player's name. But let me tell you, Righty was about 10 levels ahead of him, that's for sure. And I think that's why David Dean saw that the writing was on the wall, that that there was no way that it was going to continue past one season. And thankfully for me, it didn't. Else, I think my Arsenal career would have been a lot shorter as well.
Well, with
but I didn't. I just didn't understand. I didn't have a problem with Bruce at all. I just didn't understand him. I can't understand how too much mind games for me, if that's what it was. Why someone would talk to you one day and then just walk past you the next day. It's just not. It just didn't sit comfortable with me. That's for sure.
Was he like that with most players, or just do you feel like he was sort of singling you out, or?
I think he was. I just think he was complex. I think he wanted. I think he just didn't want a lot of the players that were at the club at the time, and he wanted to replace them. And I don't know whether he thought that was the best way to do it, but it didn't sit. It didn't sit pretty with me. That's for sure.
No.
The thing that kind of strikes me is, when George came in and the likes of yourself, Lee, Steve Bold, Arsene Wenger, Vieira, Petit, if people came in and embraced the club and embraced who was there and bought into it, they did well. And things went well for them. But if people wanted to come in and change everything, it always kind of seems to fall apart.
Yeah, but to be fair, on the flip side of that, what I'd give credit for is that he brought Bergkamp in and with David Platt. So it wasn't that. It was. I think it was more his demeanour, maybe his coaching methods. Maybe I wasn't part of his plans. I just, George Graham was the manager. We were the players. He was a bit standoffish with us, but we knew exactly where we were. We knew where we could push the boundaries, give or take, but the manager would be right behind us if we were giving him the level of performance. Arsene Wenger, as I said to you, was just go out and play, show me how good you are, and just get on with it. But George Graham, with Bruce Ray, I just didn't really understand what he wanted. That's all it was. I don't have anything against him.
That's strange. Well, last thing then before you go, what's your one abiding memory of your time at Arsenal above all else?
I don't think I've got one. I think I've said it on many occasions. Such a privilege to be part of that football club at an unbelievable time. And I think it just makes me feel so proud. Then you walk around the new stadium and you see yourself on the outside of it, that you are part of history, and you've given a lot of supporters a lot of joy along the way that hopefully they will remember for a very, very long time.
Well, we're very proud to have had you play for Arsenal. I know that I can speak for most fans, Nigel, and it's been such a pleasure. And I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone watching and listening appreciates it as well. So, yeah, well, thank you for your 13-year service to this great club, and thank you for coming on.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nigel.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, that's amazing.
I love it.
I could have had another hour, 2 hours easy.
He's a decent bloke as well, isn't he? Just, very honest in the way he answers everything.
Yeah.
It's not what you want to hear, it's what he wants to say.
I know. Absolutely, yeah. Up for a laugh. Tells it as it is. You know, I couldn't believe that with the Bruce Rioch situation. We could have delved into that a lot deeper. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I wasn't expecting that at all. Was you?
Yeah, no, I wasn't, to be honest. But I think you may need a psychologist to discuss the Bruce Rioch stuff.
Well, it sounds a lot like Emery to me as a man.
That's what strikes me as I just find the times that, you know, and to be fair, Nigel Ned, you know, he gave the honest answer. I'm not sure. For me, I look at some people, they come in, they embrace the club. And as he said, he bought in Bergkamp, he bought in Platt. And I remember thinking, Platt at the Arsenal, great, Bergkamp, this is fantastic. But, you know, you can't ditch, you know, the stalwarts, you know, whether it be Winterburn, because they were integral parts of that team.
It's just a bit of career suicide. But the thing is, I'm sure that he must have thought, right, well, I'm the new man around here now. You know, following George Graham, who was, you know, everyone knows what he was like at Arsenal, disciplinarian and amazing success and respect. And he came in and thinking, probably maybe had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, wanting to make an impression, and started throwing his weight around, and it backfired on him massively by the sounds of it.
You know, it's what an opportunity as well, you know, for any manager. What an opportunity. I just don't get it. I never have understood it when people want to, you know, everything's got a natural life cycle. We know that. That's the way of the world. But to break things up early when they do work well, you know, we kind of know at the end of George's stay, it was, let's be honest, you know, he was embittered by the amount of money the players were earning, and he wasn't earning that much. And it was just a sad situation for a great manager to fall that way, you know. But you know, the Rioch thing, I remember thinking when I'd never heard of Arsene Wenger, I was still relieved it wasn't going to be Rioch.
I know. Well, talking about you know, managers moving on, we've got to discuss the Spurs situation. I mean, I saw it coming in lots of ways, but I was still shocked yesterday when I had the notification come up about him leaving, getting sacked. Not just, you know, a mutual thing. He was sacked. That surprised me a bit. And then very, very swiftly followed by the announcement of Maureen as his replacement. So what were your initial thoughts? Were you expecting it or shocked?
In all honesty, when I heard about it, Wales were playing. So it kind of, whatever, you know. I laughed a bit. And then Aaron Ramsey, that's for you, Danny. That's for you, Danny. Rambo starts scoring goals, and it's like, woohoo, you know, I'm over the moon. And then when the rumours are going on about Mourinho coming in, and then it being confirmed this morning, it just seemed, you know, there's been talk bubbling away about him leaving all season, you know. There's been talk of him wanting away. There's been talk about United. The way it's come about, I don't know. I think there's more to this than meets the eye. You know, I think obviously sort of Mourinho's been tarting himself about. He wants a job. You know, things have gone badly wrong this season at Spurs. You know, there's the backstory with, you know, Vertonghen and Eriksen, etc. I just think, you know, he wanted out and they needed a change. I'm not sure if they're going to get the change they want with Mourinho, but a lot of people dismissing Mourinho as a has-been, I think that's pretty dangerous because that guy, you know, he plays a part. Did you watch the game for Grenfell?
No, I didn't.
The game for Grenfell at our Loftus Road. He really played the heel on the sidelines.
Did he?
He played to the crowd. He had great fun with the crowd. Okay, he ended up going in goal and stuff like that. And you can see the real man.
Oh, absolutely.
and the sort of pantomime villain at the same time. So I'm not sure. He's either going to win them a trophy or fail very badly. It's how it's going to play out. I wouldn't like to say.
Well, we know that it's going to end badly because it always does with him. But it's how successful he's going to be in the interim, because he's going to get he always has a good year or two. And then it just he corrodes the club from the inside out, just like swallowing a blue bottle, and it sort of giving birth to maggots in your stomach, and then it suddenly all the maggots start eating you from the inside out. That's what happens with Mourinho when he joins your club, and I'm going to enjoy watching it, to be perfectly honest, because we know that's going to happen. I really didn't want Mourinho. I don't want Pochettino at Arsenal either. I'm not going to deny that he's a good coach. Yes, he hasn't won anything, but we can all see that the improvements he made down the road. But I don't want him at Arsenal. He's a failed Spurs manager. There's plenty of other managers in the world. Why do we have to go for him? I just think there's some lines you don't cross. Yes, George Graham did it, but he's got an awful lot in the bank with Arsenal. So I don't know. I just don't fancy going down that road. I would rather, if we're going to want to get the right guy, I would rather because we all know that we've got to get rid of Emery. The sooner the better, because every point's precious now, and we've got to win 18 games out of the last 26, as I mentioned before. And it's not going to be easy. So to give ourselves even an outside chance, we need to make a move now, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen, let's face it. But I would rather take our time to find the right long-term permanent manager, maybe wait it out for someone like a Nagelsmann, and appoint Freddie in the interim period to get that immediate uplift. It's like what Nigel said earlier about how nice it was when Wenger just said, go out and play. I mean, that was a really nice to hear, wasn't it? And that's how it would be by just removing Emery, I think, and putting someone like Freddie in, who everyone loves and respects. Everyone's got a lot of time for him. I think they would work for Freddie, no problem. And I think he would give them that license to go out and enjoy themselves and express themselves, and just actually do the basics right, like getting everyone defending properly as a team and actually playing players in their right bloody positions for a start. I don't think it would take an awful lot to get that immediate uplift and a new manager bounce, and it doesn't have to last forever. But anything I think that Freddie could offer would be absolutely 10 times better than what we're seeing at the moment.
I'm not sure. Okay, I love Freddie. Love him as a player. Will he get a new manager bounce if he's a temporary appointment or whatever? He may well. I
think a lot of it would be. I think a lot of it would be down to how the players are treated and how they respect him. I honestly think he would. I really do think there'll be that new manager bounce 100%. Like United got when Maureen left them.
I think you're going to look at here the clarity of message and the tactics and setup that he goes out with. I think having him having been there now, he will see very confused messages back and forth between Unai and the team and the coaching staff. I think obviously Unai's his boss at the moment, so he has to toe the line. If he's in charge, yes, he can tidy that up. A clarity of message will, hopefully help us improve. As far as a long-standing vision for how we want to play football, how we want to set up the type of players we want to use, how to get the best of the players, that's going to take a lot more thought, and it's going to take a lot more planning and preparation. Is Freddie the right man for that at the moment? He may well be, he may well be, but somebody, and that somebody's going to be Raul, and alongside Edu and Vinay, have to pick a manager to take us forward.
Yeah, that's what I don't want to rush. I don't want to jump up because this sounds really strange and I may be a bit over the top, but I almost think that what's happened down the road with Spurs, I almost think that they've done it now because it looks so likely that Arsenal were going to appoint Mourinho. I think it made them jump quickly to get him. And if that's the case, then that's the best bit of trolling Arsenal have ever done, because they've got Mourinho a 3-year contract down the road, and that's fantastic in my book, because he's going to corrode that club. But yes, I'm not denying that they're going to get some an immediate uplift, I should imagine, but it won't last. It won't last, and it's going to cause more problems than it solves. And I almost think they've done it now this quickly because he was spotted down there at Arsenal. The rumours are so strong that he was going to join Arsenal, and it may have forced their hand. What do you think about that?
It might well have, I mean, let's be honest. Jose and his agent have got, they're master manipulators. That's what they've always done. It may be. I don't think it's.
Let me just clarify. You said master manipulators.
Yeah.
He probably got something else when he said it so quickly.
It doesn't do anything.
Sorry, carry on.
It's okay. But you look at it. I don't think it's trolling on our end. I genuinely don't. No.
I was joking about that part.
But some people will maybe think that. But I just find it a surreal situation at the moment. I look at the state the two clubs are in. We're all playing crap football. There's sort of 8 places and 3 points. Between us. Okay, there's only 3. It's 1 win. Their goal difference is better than ours. Okay, it's a painful season so far for a lot of clubs. From ourselves, United, Wolves, Southampton, all these places, but there's not that many points.
No,
covering the sort of the bottom half of the table.
I mean, yesterday I have to admit, and I put it on Twitter, that I'm not going to go down that road on this show because I want this show to be a nice, happy show. Yeah. But yesterday I was more pissed off with Arsenal when I saw that they'd sacked Pochettino than I have been for all this season and the end of last season, because they've just shown us how it's done. They got to the Champions League final 6 months ago, and it hasn't been going the way, and they've been decisive and got rid of their man. It's like ripping off a sticking plaster, and they've got it done now. It's over. It's all out the way, and we're dragging it out and dragging it out and dragging it out, making it as painful as possible, pulling off that sticking plaster so that every single one of our arm hairs comes out individually to prolong the pain. And it just made me angry, because that's the way big clubs should act. And it's clear for all to see that Emery, and I'm not blaming Emery anymore, is well out of his depth. He's drowning, and they're just letting it carry on and blaming the fans. So,
Andre, I mean, this is the big point here now. Okay, the point you're making is valid. Okay, they've been decisive. They've made a decision. They've run with it. Right, fine. Okay, but there's making decisions and there's making good decisions. Okay. As you've said yourself, you think, okay, so Mourinho will get an initial uplift. He may well win them a trophy, but he will corrode them from the inside out. So you can be as decisive as you want to be, but if it's not a good decision, then, it's negating the bonus point of, right, we're going to act early.
Absolutely.
The problem I have at the moment with our setup and I don't give a monkeys about Tottenham Hotspur. Funny enough, I was talking to a Tottenham fan last week, big Spurs fan, and he was saying he sits in the white wall, and he finds it a bit of a nonsense because they haven't got the trophies in the cabinet. It's more of a vanity project rather than let's build a team, then build a stadium like Arsene did. And it's funny listening to him say that it was. But I look at us at the moment. I look at Raul, and I'm thinking, Unai's your man. You're the one who's recommended him to Ivan. You're the one. You and Sven have done that. You're the one who's briefed against people, whether it be Sven, whether it be Darren Burgess, Ramsey, Mesut Ozil. You're the one who's brought this into the club. You're the one who has to deliver now. Because make no bones about it, this guy, his modus operandi is Barcelona through and through. Let's brief through the press. Let's do this. He's the one who's causing the caustic atmosphere at the club at the moment.
Yeah.
When you've got youth players taking the piss out of the manager in training and stuff like that, whatever Unai Emery is, he doesn't deserve that.
No, of course
What
not.
I mean?
He's letting him drown. Like I said, it's totally his fault.
And this is the thing now. This guy needs to deliver, because I don't think he's up to mustard. I think, I thought he was brave with the Pepe signing, but I don't. I think there's a lot of good young transfers made in the transfer window. In some transfer window, we spoke about Martinelli, Saliba, etc. on the show. I think those are really nice ones for the future. But to date, Pepe, he's flattered to deceive. You've seen a lot of talent, but no end product, very little. You've seen Ceballos be, to be honest, bang average. Okay, and his reputation lives and dies. How these pan out?
I honestly, genuinely believe that you can't judge any players on this season so far. I'm not saying under any circumstances that none of this is down to any of the players, of course, but they're not performing to their utmost abilities, primarily down to what they're being told, and they're going out every week on the pitch in a different formation with a different lineup, giving a different job. Because everyone keeps going on and on and on and asking the question about what is Unai's philosophy. Well, we know his philosophy. His philosophy is what he gave us a clue at when he first joined, about being a chameleon team. And that means that we change every week to compensate for our opposition and to negate the opposition. Rather than force our style on the opposition, he wants to negate the opposition's strengths, and doesn't work to our strengths. And we can see that right from when he joined. We had a good run, yes, but we all know that we didn't play very well during that run. So that's his philosophy, is to change. That's why he used the chameleon team.
Yeah.
And, we can't judge our players, especially Ceballos, when he's only 22, after such an early stage. I don't believe.
I think that's a very fair comment, okay? But I think this is more not about judging just the players. This is judging Raul Sanllehi, because he's gone out there and brought these players in for a manager who cannot use them properly.
No.
Okay?
That's why we can't judge them.
And this is the thing, okay? From what we've seen so far this season, it's been dire. It's been embarrassing. It's been turgid, it's been boring, it's been awful, okay? It's sucked the joy out of football for me.
Yeah, me. I would rather put Freddie in charge and just let the players just go and express themselves and just have fun on the pitch. And I genuinely, and I can hold my hand up and say, I would rather go out and lose 3-2 every week or 4-3 every week, but watch exciting, attacking football and see the players with smiles on their faces again, because I haven't seen an Arsenal player look happy on the pitch for months, and they look bloody miserable.
And this is the thing, okay? And I think it's bang on the money, okay? Nobody's happy at the moment, okay? It's turgid, it's awful. No, they're not enjoying themselves in the park. Nobody's enjoying themselves in the stands. Nobody's enjoying themselves watching it at home. And when you've got a poisonous situation like that, okay, it takes leadership at the top of the tree to sort of turn that around. Unfortunately, none of the players trust anybody there.
No.
You look at the Aubameyang business a couple of weeks ago, with the tweet, with the Instagram post. Okay, well, all that's come because guess what? That's all they've seen are the likes of Unai and Raul briefing against their teammates, Sven, Dan Burgess, etc. All these things have happened, and that's formed this caustic, situation we've got. And now somebody's got to change it. Well, I don't mind us playing pragmatic football, but we've never played pragmatic football under Unai. I don't mind us playing defensive football. I don't mind us playing balls out football. But get it right. Get plan A right, then plan B right, and build from there. But we're not doing that, are we?
No, not at all. And I was when I went on Twitter after the Liverpool League Cup game, and I was eulogising about that performance, and I got so many comments coming back saying, "What? We let 5 goals in, and blah 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 blah." He said, "You really enjoyed us. Our defence was shit, and blah blah blah." Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed that game, and it was fucking exciting, and that's what I want to watch. And of course, it's not ideal to draw 5-5 and lose on penalties. But it was an exciting game, and it was the first one we've had in so long, apart from, a couple of the other cup performances earlier on in the season. So, yes, I mean, I would prefer that, hand on my heart. And people will say, oh, yeah, you wait until, we start losing a game or two. You won't like it then. But if we're playing really good, exciting football, that's what I want at the moment. And I don't want that long term. That's why I said I don't want us to rush into the appointment. And I'd be very happy if we got a caretaker in like Freddie for a short while, because even if it does go tits up, we'll watch some good, attractive, attacking football, and we can make it an permanent appointment afterwards. It's whatever, however long that takes. Get the right guy, and if that means you have to wait till the end of the season, so be it. But I can't stand to watch this football between now and the end of the season, and I genuinely. People think I'm overreacting, but we could genuinely, by Christmas, when it comes to January, we could be in a relegation fight if we carry on with Emery. And that's not being over, whatever. That's the truth. It's facts.
Andrew, we're closer to the relegation zone than we are at the top of the table. Okay?
I know.
And this is the thing. When people tell you, if we try to play attractive football or attacking football, you won't like it when we lose. Well, we're not exactly winning every game at the moment, are we? Our league form is we've won a third of our games. We've drawn 5. We've lost 3. And to be honest with you, we got a bit lucky on a couple of those as well. Much as yes, we've had a decision go against us here and there. We've been awfully lucky at times. I don't want a vendetta or a witch hunt against Unai Emery. I can't see him being happy with what's happening. No. It's a miserable situation.
He must be stressed up to the eyeballs.
Can you imagine
that? He must go to bed every night with a banging headache.
How is he sleeping?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. He must be going through the mill, because I'm telling you now, I don't see him being good enough for a lower half of the table Premier League side. I don't see him Premier League quality, because I've seen no coaching ability in him whatsoever. And I don't want to knock the guy. I really don't. I've got nothing against him as a person. He seems like a nice guy. But not one thing that he does on the pitch makes me think, oh yeah, I can see what he's doing there. That's quite clever. I don't.
But let's be honest. I think he went to that PSG job, and that must have been a poisonous situation. Neymar's basically running the team. Neymar and the players running the team. You can't win because of all the egos, and I think maybe part of that has carried on into this role. Do you know what I mean? That you've got a bit of that, and he's got a bit of a complex about him. I think for Unai Emery, if I'm Unai Emery, look, you don't need the money, okay? You don't need the cash. When you go,
I know, but his wife does. That's the problem. Can you imagine what your missus would say if you walked out on 10 million quid or whatever it's going to be?
If we sack him, we're going to pay him off. It's as simple as that. But the thing is, okay, he needs a break from football and he needs to reassess where he is.
Yeah, he does.
What he's doing at the moment, it's not working on the pitch. It's obviously not making him happy every and I know it's difficult. It's not in his mother tongue and when he gives when he gives interviews. But speak in Spanish then. Don't let yourself be misunderstood. Do what Bale does. Bale can speak Spanish well enough, but he's not allowing.
He can't be bothered, can he?
Well, no, he wasn't allowing the Spanish press to misinterpret him, okay, because that's happened before, and now he's at the position where he's been treated like shit by the fans and the press. So screw them, So you're at that point, and I think Unai needs to protect himself a little bit as well, because this is such a toxic situation for him.
Oh, honestly, it is embarrassing for the club now. It's got, and I'm not just saying that as a throwaway comment. It's actually embarrassing for the club. And for him to come out at the end of the games and say he's happy with the performance and blah, blah, blah. It's just, we've had, I think, 2 shots on target in 3 games.
I know.
I mean, how can we go on like that? With the talent we've got on the pitch. And I'll tell you what, Peter, but people keep going on about this thing about after the Leicester game and before the Leicester game, how many of the Arsenal team will get in the Leicester team. And you must have heard that a dozen times easy. Yeah. Well, put yourself in a position of thinking back to last Christmas when Puel, or whatever his name is, Claude Puel was in charge. Do you honestly think that question would have been asked then with this current squad? We were better than them in every department because of the way they were playing and the way that their mentality was at the time and their confidence was at the time. He was leaving out Jamie Vardy and he was pissing off all their players. Do you honestly think that we'd ask that question now? If it was against that Leicester, but they haven't changed any players.
It's difficult. It's the one thing you look at, okay, is that some jobs suit some managers. I mean, and say what you want about Brendan Rodgers. I'm sure I said at the time I didn't want him at the Arsenal. I'm pretty positive that's what I said. But I know that my mates were Swans fans. They liked him as a manager. They enjoyed the football. They enjoyed the football. They thought, I went up for the playoff game, the Swansea Reading playoff game with the boys. And Swansea played bloody good football when they went up to the Premier League. They played bloody good football. Okay. And unfortunately, when, we all know what, David Brent's about him. And when he went to Liverpool, it made him a target. But,
he didn't help himself, did he? Yeah, with his portrait up and all that sort of stuff. And
sometimes, I mean, we all get wrapped up in our little worlds, don't we? But I just find it. I look at us at the moment, and I just wonder who's going to be the right character to come into the Arsenal, to embrace the squad, to grab it by the scruff of the neck, to shake it up, and to turn it into a positive place, and to kind of take everybody on a journey the way George did, the way Arsene did, to say, right, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be a positive place. Whether you're playing pragmatic football or attacking football, I don't mind. But, I'm the boss. This is how we're going to do it. Get buy-in from everyone and take us forward. And I'm not sure who that man is.
Well, do you know, my choice is Chris Wilder. I absolutely think that Chris Wilder would be perfect. And people think that, he's only had half a season. He's not just had half a season. For the last 10 years, he's been one of the most successful managers that there is. And you've got to get rid of this snobbery about, it was only in the Championship or League One. I don't give a monkeys, because it's down to his amazing coaching ability. And if you say, again, this is another thing people say, well, our players aren't good enough to get to the top 4. Well, I'm sorry, but we just got schooled by a team of League One players under Chris Wilder. Now, you're telling me that they're good enough to be 5th above Arsenal? Well, yes, they obviously are, because they are coached brilliantly. And they don't play long ball football. They play good football, but I tell you what, you must have seen that stat that's been doing the rounds, that once they take the lead, they haven't lost a match in the last 4 years after taking the lead.
This is the thing, okay? I don't think you're wrong in what you're saying, okay? Whether he'd be the right fit at the moment, you can only tell by trying it, and the guy's a Premier League manager on credit. Do you know what I mean? He's earned the right to be in the Premier League. He's taken that side up. All power to the guy, okay? I think the problem we've got at the moment is, and take the fan base and Twitter out of it, okay? Who cares? Who gives a monkeys? If you're Raul Sanllehi and you're making this decision, you have to do your due diligence and go around and find the right man, in conjunction with Edu, with Per, because it's going to be a very holistic sort of working environment going forward. But George came from Millwall.
Exactly. We need a coach.
Yeah.
We don't want a manager who's going to want to have all the budget under his ring, and we don't want anyone that had complete control over the whole club like Wenger did. We want a coach.
But that developed over time. Arsene came from Japan. Okay, he had a highly successful time at Monaco, unfortunately tainted by the Tapi, bribery scandal, etc. But the thing for us is, we need a character who's going to take us on a journey, who's going to set standards, who's going to set a vision in play, and Raul, whether you like it or not, is a guy who likes dealing with big super agents, okay, who uses them. That's his contact book. That's who he likes to use. Maybe it's going to change now with Edu here, but Edu, he's a guy who has strong ties to Kurabachian, etc.
Is Edu a mute, though? Is he a mute? Because I've never heard him speak. He needs to come out. And he's the one that's supposed to set the style of play throughout the entire club. He's the one that's supposed to do that.
This is going to be interesting going forward, isn't it? Because, how are we going to go forward as a club? I don't think the next manager of Arsenal Football Club is going to be English.
No, of course he won't. And this is why, going back to what you just said about Raul, and I agree completely. But that is the crux of the problem. Because, we need to find the right guy to manage our club.
Yeah.
Now, Thunder Road said, and I know, pretty very tongue-in-cheek, Chris Wilder isn't good-looking enough for Arsenal. You need to look the part as well. He's not a dog. He can get some Grecian 3000, whatever it's called. That's no problem. Or Just for Men. Yeah, that's no issue at all. And as we all know, Emery's got his teeth fixed on Arsenal expenses as well whilst he's been here. So he could do that. He could have some plastic surgery, no problem. But this is the problem. If you're going back to what you said about the decision that Raul's got to make now, and with these partnerships he's got with these super agents, etc., this is why we make mistakes. Well, not just us. All the big clubs across Europe make so many mistakes with their managers, and they have to pay them off after. I mean, we'll remember Frank de Boer at Crystal Palace. 4 games, I think he had, didn't he? 4 games, and he got sacked. Now, can you imagine how much they would have had to pay him off? And if people did their research properly and actually made the decisions based on what they want the style of the club to play, football-wise, and looked at people's track record of how they actually play football and the way that they coach their team and so on and so forth, rather than looking at all these big glamorous names right across Europe, then a lot of teams would probably not even go out of business, the way they are going at the moment, or, being such shit, across Europe, because they make the decisions based on name and their kudos within the game rather than what they can actually do and the skill set. So if we actually had the mindset of what we did back in the 80s when we appointed George Graham from Millwall, for example, and the way that Norwich go about their recruitment and the way that Sheffield United appoint Chris Wilder, etc., then the world, the football world, would be a lot happier place because there'd be a lot of better matches across the playing field, and clubs won't be in so much financial difficulty. Now we need someone exactly like Chris Wilder with his skill set. Now, if you look back at and take the time to research what he's done in the game over the last decade, then you will understand exactly what he can bring to the table. Because going back to his time, right the way back to non-league, the way he's taken over with Halifax Town, then with Oxford, Northampton, and then back to his time at Sheffield United, the way that he's turned these clubs around is nothing short of miraculous. You know, when he took over Northampton, they were at the bottom and in danger of going out of League Two and going out of business. Cut adrift, and he lost his first 4 games in charge. Mm. But at the end of that season, they won the league and they got over 100 points because he got his methods in place very, very quickly, and his style of playing football across the board. That is what we need.
You look at it, Kate. Thunder Road's having a bit of fun there, and he says, some with skinny jeans and stuff like that, and he mentions Ralph Hasenhüttl. It may be something like Wilder we need. It may be something like Hasenhüttl. You've got to remember, it doesn't work out for everybody at every club.
No, I like Hasenhüttl. I think he's a good manager still.
Yeah, I'd take him, I've got to be honest, because I think at least he's going to put in place a style of play, and he's going to back it. Do you know what I mean? And I think, when you look at the player profiles at the clubs as well, okay, that's going to come into it as well, because you're going to have to get your Mesut Ozil, your Aubameyang, your Lacazette's on side. My big worry is, whoever's going to come into our club, okay. Nice, Dan. Nice. But whoever's going to come in has got to sort that midfield area out. And
absolutely.
I'm not sure we've got the personnel there. But
I'm not sure about that though. I think that yes, we've got a lot of young players across the midfield, but I still think they've got enough about them to be well organised and do what they need to do. So I've just seen what you're on about with what Stan the man said. But what you just said as well. You said about they'll have to get the players on side. Well, if they don't get on side with the manager, I'm sorry, but fuck them off.
Yeah,
I don't care who you are. You need to get This is the mentality we've got to get rid of.
But what I'm trying to say is you've got to get them to buy into your vision. Do you know what I mean? It's not just a case of there are guys who'll do whatever you want to do. There's good pros out there, and there's some people, for argument's sake, I'll do what you want me to do, but I don't really believe in it. You've got to get that buy-in. They've got to really say, yeah, actually, this is what I think you're absolutely right, or I think this is innovative, and I think I can enjoy playing this way. And if you do that, okay, then once you got that buy-in, okay, then you're on the right track, because they'll bust a gut for you.
Yeah. Well, remember what Nigel Winterburn said about George Graham when he came into Arsenal? And he wanted the players that would listen to him and do what he told them to do. And he set about getting rid of all the big names, the Graham Rickses, the Kenny Sansoms, the Charlie Nicholas, etc. He got rid of all the Billy Big Bums, whatever he wants the body to call them. And he brought in players that completely listened to what he said. And we beat the best team that of the last 20 years at the time.
Yeah.
By having that attitude and the organisation on the pitch. I don't mind going back to that sort of situation personally as an Arsenal fan. I wouldn't mind getting rid of all the big time players and having a team that were much more like the bloody Sheffield United players who play with utter commitment. And it's like I remember listening to the radio when we played Vittoria recently, because it was a weird kickoff time, 3:50. I was at work, and Perry Groves was doing the co-coms, and he said because he was just disgusted with what he was seeing on the pitch. I mean, what a pathetic performance that was. And he said in his day, you would have players that were going, cutting out crosses, saying, "Over my dead body, you're going to get that ball in the box." That's exactly the words he said.
Yeah.
Perry Groves. I just want that kind of commitment, though. I'm not saying that's what you but if you had players like that on the pitch and they were all organised, then I would rather have that than this shit show we're being served up week after week at the moment, and just start afresh.
Yeah, look, it's a different world nowadays. Unfortunately, Sky, the Premier League, where the guy was talking about Anthony Rees. There's a picture of him captaining that FA Cup Arsenal, and said, Tony Adams is behind him. You've got Keown with his sort of Afro type thing, Paul Davis,
I love Paul Davis,
David Rocastle. They're all there, okay. And Rees was captaining them, and some of the stories Rees will tell you, he's hilarious. Okay, he was Charlie Nick's boot boy. Some of the stories are world class, right? But now all these guys, they're millionaires by that time. They'd be, if Rees was that guy now, he'd be a millionaire at 18 years of age.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? He'd be driving the Bentley. They're not the same anymore. There's no YTS anymore. I know Charlie Nick used to bang him a few quid every week because he was taking him out on the razzle and you know what I mean, all that business. Because he was a YTS boy, he did 30 quid a week at the Arsenal cleaning boots. The world has changed so much, but you can get the level of commitment.
You can. Because look at Sheffield United.
Yeah, I think you've seen by like Tierney coming in, stuff like that. I think if you look at Holding, if you look at Chambers, I'd build a defence around those guys at the moment. That's what I'd be doing. But
he reminds me very much of an old school player, Kieran Tierney.
Yeah.
The way he tucks his shirt in as well.
Yeah. But this is the thing, it's I don't know. Whoever's going to come in, and I think they need to do it sooner rather than later, but they've got to get buy-in from this squad of players, and they've got to actually,
Yeah, something's got to be done. Yeah, absolutely. But, well, I think we've been going for an hour and 3/4. So as much as I could carry on for ages, I would best leave it there, I guess.
I enjoyed that, pal. Thanks
mate, honestly, yes, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for coming on. It's
my pleasure.
Really, really, I think it's been a great show. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
I got to speak to Nigel Winterburn. I'm a fanboy.
I know exactly. It's all recorded as well, so I can prove it to everyone and everything. But no, it's great. Thank you for coming on. Thanks everyone.
My pleasure, Andrew.
Thanks everyone in the chat box. It's been brilliant. I haven't done a roll call actually. Oh, can you do a tappy for me?
Oh,
just have.
Okay. Look, chat box. Okay, there's some. Look at them. Look at them there. Okay. Loki's there. Stan the Man's there. Thunder Road. Danny the GFP's there. They're all there. Don One's in there. Alonso Spencer's been in there. They're all there happily taking your free content. Ryan, the Mr. Arsenal podcast, he's in there. They're all enjoying the free content, Andrew.
Absolutely.
But are they tapping that like button, Andrew?
No.
No, they're not, are they? They're fucking well not. Okay.
I'll tell you what. It's disgraceful.
It's disgraceful. I don't know who they think they are. They're coming into your chat box, okay? They're enjoying content. They're enjoying themselves having a chat with each other. But no, they're not. They're too good to press that like button, aren't they? They're too good. Well, listen here, people. Pull your heads out of your arseholes and start tapping that like button. Now, please. Let's get going. Tappy for the Gooner from Hinkley.
I shall be writing some strong-worded letters to your parents.
I can't keep that going. I really can't.
No, fantastic. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you for listening to those that listen to the podcast version. Subscribe, like, etc., etc. Don't ask for it enough, but please do. So thanks again, Jason. I hope to have you on again in the future.
Always a pleasure.
Have a great evening, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for having me on, pal. Really enjoyed that.
Yes,